What's up, fam?
What's up, family?
Welcome today. You've got Melendia.
And Charles with Just Keeping It Real.
Yeah, so today we're going to talk a little bit of something that is dear to our hearts. And for those that hadn't experienced it yet, you will see what we mean.
Sure.
And it's called grandparenting.
Grandparenting. Sure.
Yeah, so.
But before we do, you're probably asking the question.
Who are we?
Who are we?
We are relationship advocates.
What does that mean?
What does that mean? That means that we publicly
support.
Yes. And recommend the strengthening of all healthy
relationships. That means
Absolutely.
Yours and ours. Okay, so what's our purpose?
Our purpose to empower all people.
All people.
And strengthening to build a stronger world.
A stronger world.
Absolutely.
All right, so what are we going to talk about today, Mala?
Again, we said we're going to talk about grandparenting.
All right, you're looking nice again.
Thank you.
As always.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes.
So go ahead, we're going to talk about what?
Grandparenting.
Grandparenting.
And that is what we are.
We are grandparents.
We are, yes.
Okay.
And I am, don't call me grandma, okay? Don't call me grandma. I am Mimi.
I'm Papa C.
Papa C. So.
So what we want to talk about, the joys and the pleasures of grandparenting.
Yes.
Now, if you are a grandparent, you may can relate to us. Now, you might be experiencing the other side of this thing. I guess the sorrows. But we want to talk about the joys of grandparenting. Our plight or our story is this. A little over 5 years ago, we found out that our daughter, oldest child,
it's going to be a mommy.
Was expecting. Yes.
Yeah.
And it wasn't the most welcoming of news for us.
I was surprised. I was shocked. It was all kind of mixed emotions.
A lot of emotions. But
yeah,
what we got over that, and we decided, okay, how are we going to support her?
Yes.
That's the thing. How are we going to be a support structure for our daughter?
Yeah, and from a mother's standpoint, when you know that your daughter is expecting, eventually, I had to grasp in my mind that I have to be there for my daughter.
Sure.
That was my plight. I have to be there for her. This was a new experience for her. Her body's getting ready to go through a lot of changes, emotionally, psychologically, physically, and it was important that I showed her that I was there to support her through this time.
Okay.
So, belly getting bigger, seeing how the baby was growing, and what? He was born on
my birthday, the day that I was born, as a grandson.
Yes.
So again, for me, it was, gosh, man, it was a pleasure, it was a blessing, all those emotions all at once.
Yes.
But there was also responsibility. And we have a responsibility as grandparents. So my thing is, how would I teach this young man, this little boy, to be a man of integrity, to be a citizen of good report, and to be respectable?
Yeah.
That was the thing.
And that's so important today for our young people. Of course, initially you have to be an example for your children.
Sure, right.
And now we're bearing the responsibility of showing a light for our grandchild. And because there's so much negativity out here that he's going to see, experience, and we want to be the backbone for him. Now, granted, every grandparent may not feel that way because there is a lot of things that comes with grandparenting, and it can be disheartening for some.
Yes, right.
And because of whether the child was unexpected or whether or not it was born out of wedlock or whatever the circumstance may be, we do know that for grandparents, they have to have some sense of responsibility.
Sure, absolutely. And it is a responsibility. And that's how we feel. There's some grandparents out there that really, have little responsibility or even little interest or little input when it comes to grandchildren. Because, and two, I remember growing up, it's different than it was for me, I think probably you growing up. And the things we dealt with or that we saw grandparents that Big Mama, Pops, that they didn't have the involvement like we do per se, but they were involved. So they didn't play with the grandchildren or get down and play cars and games and this. They didn't do that because in our area growing up, you were as a child, you were heard, you were seen, and heard very little. And the thing about it, you never really got into grown folk business. So that's the thing. So that was that deal. So nowadays, grandparents are younger, more energetic, should be, doing more things.
There are also some challenges with some of the young, because a lot of grandparents are much younger now.
Yes, right.
So they are feeling like you're not going to hinder my.
Yep. Stop me, my time. This is my time.
So,
right?
And granted, to their point, I understand that. I do. But it comes to a point where this child didn't ask to be here. So we have to take a different approach to how we're going to respond and how we should be there for our grandchildren.
One thing about grandparenting, we've always heard that being a grandparent is special and different from just being a parent, And we couldn't understand that at one point. And I think after a while, when this happened, our grandson was born, we understood that love for a grandchild. And some people make jokes of saying something about, wow, why couldn't the grandchildren have been born first? Wow, this and that. I guess to try to make the children feel bad. But one thing, there's a special love there towards our grandchildren, and we experienced that. And I think with grandparents, I saw in my parents being grandparents that they were a little lighter on the grandchildren and the great-grands than they were on us. They were hard on us, and then they were real easy. And I'm thinking like, whoa. And my father even told me at one point that I was too hard on our son Darren. And I'm thinking like, whoa, listen to who's talking. I said, really? And so that's the thing. But again, a blessing.
Yes. And we do know that grandparenting styles are a lot different today.
Sure.
As we said before, back in the day, you were a child, you stay in your child's place. Children are different today. And parenting and grandparents are different. Grandparents, as I said, are a lot younger, and therefore they may have to encumber some a little bit more responsibility, especially if it's from a child that's still living at home or whatever. So then we deal with the patience and tolerance of a grandparent. So you would think maybe, some of the younger grandparents, they may have a little bit more tolerance and patience, but that's not necessarily true.
No.
Or as well as the older ones. So it just really depends on how you invest yourself in your grandchild's upbringing in their life. And
development, yes.
Yeah. So, we can't tell you how to be a grandparent. We can just share some things that may be helpful, and especially in our young children today. And as grandparents, we have to set the example for them. Children have to see more examples that are positive examples of relationships, and grandparents can be part of that stepping stone for them.
Okay, and the thing too is that there are more single parents today, and grandparents are, more or less the grandparents of single family parents or single parents. Grandparents today, a lot of grandchildren today, though, are growing up in single parent homes, and it is imperative that if you have both grandparents there and they're showing a strong relationship in marriage, it's important for them to see good examples there.
Yeah.
So, and you show a balance as well. And I know the climate that we're in, this is a total departure from the norm.
Right.
Because that's just like there are grandparents that haven't seen their grandchildren in weeks and months, and maybe even a year or more for some. And the thing about it, some of the talk that we're putting out, it may not even apply to you. So what we're saying is that there's still a joy in grandparenting. And I think with us, we desire to see our grandson even more now. And it just, that's what we desire. I mean, we desire to see him more.
Yeah, yeah. And you can use, for those that are involved with their grandkids and they're not able to see them, we are fortunate to have, the technology today. There's a thing that's called Caribou, and it's actually an educational tool that grandparents and parents distance can work with their grandkids today. You can read with them, you can do different activities and whatever. So, you're actually doing it together.
You say read with them, also coloring. That's what some of the things that you've done with them.
Several different activities and things. So, then you have, the greatest technology of Zoom and FaceTime and what is that, Duo? There.
And use these tools to help educate and even bond with your grandchildren. So what we've done, we've tried to take advantage of that. And I know you've done a great job with our grandson, with even lessons that you come up with, and you've taught him a lot. And basically we've done things together. We've used those tools as well. So again, a different climate, but please take advantage of it. Be there. Be present grandparents.
Yeah. So, this topic is about the joys of grandparenting.
Sure.
Even through this tough, difficult time that, babies are still being born.
Oh, yeah.
They call them COVID climate babies. I don't know. But I'm just saying, so the grandparents that become awakening in this feeling, it is an awesome feeling. It really is. You embrace it. You open up an opportunity to help raise another soul.
Yes.
And be an example of in this negative climate that we're in. So what we hear today is actually giving out pointers.
Sure.
Giving out pointers of utilize the technology that you have. And if you are close by, take some time, manage your time to be able to be involved with your grandchild.
Make an impact.
Offer some value,
sure, exactly.
To them. Educate them. It's always been something my husband used to love to do is sit back and listen to my grandfather, and how you get so much wisdom from the older generation. Now you sit back and listen to their stories.
Yes.
So allow the kids to take on some of those jewels that grandparents have to offer, especially the older, they're mainly their great-grandparents or something like that. Involve them in getting to know them and give them the joy. Parents, give them the joy of being able to connect and be part of your child's life. And
also hear their stories as well. Because that's one thing we get a joy out. Just listen to our grandson talk and just express himself and how he feels. Because I would grab a recorder in a minute just to listen to him talk. And there's several things. Because I want to know what he's thinking. What's going on in his head. Yeah. And when we listen to him and he expresses. And our children nowadays are so intelligent. And they know so much, nowadays. Because there are things I know at his age I didn't know. Nobody taught us like saying, but with the social media, with these educational platforms, these children are learning a lot.
Yeah.
And the thing about it, allow that to be positive learning, because we know as much as positive is out there, there's the access to the negative and the things. So again, grandparenting is a wonderful thing for us. Yes. And I want you, grandparents that are out there, to experience the same joy and pleasure that it is in grandparenting. And knowing that this is an innocent being that is depending on your wisdom and your direction to help raise them as well. Giving them some pointers and some things in life to think back on, to say, I love going to my grandparents' house. Yes, so you don't ever want your grandkids to be like, I want to go there. Yeah, exactly. Because, it's funny because I think
my grandparents lived in South Carolina, and the things that I remember was the outhouses type stuff, and taking a bath in a what is that, the basin thing? Oh, interesting. Okay. But I was intrigued by the solid foundation that I saw. Because yes, granted, I was raised with a single mom who was an awesome single mom. But it's nothing like seeing your mother's mother, your mother's parents, having that bond and that unity, and sharing how they were raised and how they can help you.
And another thing, being grandparents, it actually sort of gives you a chance to do it. A chance for a redo. Hey, you probably made mistakes with your children and you did things so bad, so wrong. You say, oh, I'm going to make up with this job. Sometimes you go overboard. You're buying so much stuff. We've done that. And just like even as a kid, some of the things that I didn't experience, some of these power cars, some of the stuff I didn't have as a kid. But guess what? Our grandson has those things. So, that gives you a chance to do, like I say, a do-over to that degree. I'm saying to a degree. Only thing I'm saying, the mistakes that we made with our children, we can actually try to get it right with the grandson. That's all I'm saying, of the grandchildren. That's all.
Learn from the mistakes that you made with your children.
Right.
Because what happens is your children will say,
Yeah, they'll see it different. You
ain't do that with us.
Yeah,
you ain't let us get, but see,
we learned. Yeah.
We learned patience.
We're learning patience.
We're learning patience. But it has given me a sense of a better way to be more of a listener and hear them out. Even though today's children, they're interesting beings now. They have a lot of freedom of speech, so they say. So, but, topic at hand is grandparenting.
The joys of grandparenting.
Yes. And our little man, Cameron Amir Person Roseboro, is my little life there.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful to have him, even though it wasn't sure, from the beginning of how I would feel. But you ask my daughter, she think I'm crazy because, I'm crazy in love with all my children.
Right. Yeah.
But
But especially a grandson. And one thing too, even with him as a grandfather, me having the opportunity to teach him how to ride a bicycle, that's been something, dear, and to drive the little battery cars and to do all that, try to teach him safety rules, on the sidewalk and watching for traffic, and even to run behind him as he's learning to ride the bike and as he's kind of getting faster at it, and I'm running out of breath, running behind him, and I'm thinking his father should be here, should be doing, but
that makes him young.
Still, it's a pleasure.
It keeps him young.
It's a pleasure, and I will be so grateful, always so grateful to God. And I say, Lord, I thank you for the responsibility that I have towards him. And at times I'll just stop everything, and I'll look at him, and I say, man, I love you, man. And as much as your grandfather, I'm here. Your Papa C is here for you, and I'm going to give all of me to you to help you to be a better man coming up. And I ask God and I pray over him to say, Lord, I want him to be your child, your man. So, why are we having this talk?
What do you take away?
What will you take away from this?
Yeah, I mean,
okay.
I would think I would. My first takeaway is encouraging grandparents to be hands-on. Be engaged, be involved. Take advantage of that time to teach and learn from your grandkids.
And also, focus on building a positive relationship with your grandchildren, because that's going to be needed to take them over in life, So work on that, building a relationship and a positive one.
And then I would say be an example. Be a positive example that and not just for your grandkids, but for your kids as well.
Sure, sure.
Because the topic is grandparenting, be an example for your grandchild.
Set a climate or an environment that is conducive and that creates growth or a pleasurable environment for the grandchild to come to say, hey, I want to go see grandma and grandpops or whatever Mimi, Mimu or whatever you call yourself. So, I mean, just set that climate that they want to come and see you. And we know that in the climate we're in now, it is not the most conducive for what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But when things get to that level, because some grandparents are actually living in the same house as the grandchildren. Yeah. So we're saying, set that tone that they can come to you and can feel comfortable with you. Because I'm going to say something, that there are grandparents out there, and I'm speaking to you if you're one of those, that are abusing our children, that are doing it in several ways, physical and even sexual. So we're saying to you, get the help that you need so you can set the climate and be the type of grandparent that is positive and that's needed for your grandchildren.
Yeah. So lastly, I would say, especially for those grandkids that are not in the home, take advantage of the technology to keep in touch.
Yes.
It's difficult now where families are not being able to be together.
Sure.
So, and invest in some type of educational, tools that you can share with your grandchildren. So, and all the free ones, like I say, FaceTime and Duo and all these other, and Zoom, all these other ways to connect. Take advantage of that. Yeah. So, there's some good and there's some ugliness sometimes in grandparenting.
Yes.
And I would say the ugliness is when you misuse your privilege of being a grandparent. But we're hoping that you can take these tips away, encourage someone else that's a grandparent, and use some of these skills yourself.
Yes.
So, till next time.
Just keeping it real.
With Melendia.
Me, and Papa C. Well, look, again, the joy of grandparenting. We enjoy. Definitely a light in our life.
This is our story.
Ours, yes.
So, till next time.
We encourage you. We love you.
Stay safe.
Stay believing.
Bye.